Hey, Patreons. Welcome back to the Facts of Geek Life, where we take a great show, a season of that show, some episodes, break it down, and have fun time talking about it. I'm Charlie, as you know, joined by Peter, whom you also know, and we are continuing to talk about Ron Moore's exceptional reimagining, I should say, of Battlestar Galactica. We are now into season 3, and we're getting into our second segment. So in the last segment, our wonderful colonists escaped the Cylons in New Caprica. But let's face it, not everything is going to be shiny and happy on the big G.
It's all just flowers and sunshine and rainbows after you get away from a massive shit show.
I know. It was funny because on the old show, it was like, well, I remember watching episodes that they're like, well, we're still having like a fancy dinner and everybody had food. And yeah, there were some refugees, but they were like sleeping in a well-lit area and everybody had blankets and everything, but they still had food. And so it was just never really that bad. So this is definitely a lot more nitty gritty. This is crap. So anyway, let's jump on into it. We got 4 episodes to talk about. And let's do it. All right. The show, as of, I wrote 2024, but I did not check. We're recording this in January of 2025. I did not check to update, but as of last year, the episodes are available on Amazon Prime. More importantly, they're available for purchase, both digitally or I hedge my bets and I have both. I have the discs and I also have it digitally because you know what? You can't trust digital. We're definitely learning that in this modern age because you don't know what's going to happen with stuff.
I have the discs in 2 versions and I have the digital on my server that I host myself. So.
Exactly. It's not going to go anyplace. But anyway, let's jump on in with episode 5, which is Collaborators. Survivor count 41,435, which is down by, did we lose almost 10,000 since the beginning of the series? It's pretty close.
We were at 52 somewhere at the beginning.
Wow. Yeah, so more than that. So yeah, the exodus to New Caprica was not kind in the 6 months that they were down there, or a year and a half, but yeah, 6 months of occupation. Anyway, Michael Reimer is doing the directing with a writing by Mark Verheiden from October of 2006. The Circle, which is that there was a circle on DS9 too. So the circle is like your scariest shape, I guess.
This episode feels just a little derivative.
Before
we get into it, I'll talk about that later. But
Right, exactly. But anyway, the circle is a secret tribunal aboard Galactica decides the fate of colonials who were proven to be collaborated with the Cylons during the occupation of New Caprica. Wow, pretty gritty.
This episode is intense.
Yeah. So it starts out with the first victim of the circle, and they're basically, their drumhead judgment, which is a drumhead is a face
an ad hoc court. Where the
exactly.
General is just kind of judge, jury, executioner.
Exactly. So that's what happens. So the circle stands around in a room. They have papers and documentation. They say, well, it looks like so-and-so did this thing and that thing. And with unanimous vote of 6 people, they carry out the sentence, which is they put the person in one of the launch tubes, they close it, and they flush them into space. Very easy. And the first victim is Jammer, who was, he was a guy that I kind of liked. I thought he was all right. He even had a conversation with the chief, which is told in the recap leading up to this. Like he says, what if whoever is involved with the New Caprica police, what if they thought they were doing a good thing and they're in over their head? And the chief was like, nah, they're collaborators, blah, blah. So they're going to go. The catch that I had early on is this is the 3rd day since they all got back. So it's the 3rd day since last episode. They still managed to put this tribunal together, get all this corroborating printed documentation. I mean, they have a couple of pages that are like crumpled up and stuff, but they got really organized over a bunch of paperwork that I feel like wouldn't have made it. I feel like they wouldn't have had it. Yeah.
Some of it seems like it's, like eyewitness accounts that they gathered from like witnesses over when.
Yeah. Who did they? Because right now you would just think at this point everybody would just be glad that they're not dead, because a lot of people, but a lot of people were. So the whole kind of premise of it is a little wobbly, but I mean the drama really pays off, so it's worthwhile. So, so we're seeing the ship, and because there were ships destroyed and ships that didn't make it off the surface, Galactica is just butts to nuts. There's nothing but civvies stacked everywhere.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, it's bad. So I wrote "Ugh, civilians." But yeah, Jammer, when he's trying to exonerate himself before he gets flushed into space, relates the fact that he released Callie during the firing line out there by the flats,
Yeah,
and
Chief doesn't believe him.
he's like, "No, I don't think so." But then he's back in bunks, and Callie's drifting off to sleep with their baby, and he even though she's half awake, he asks her about it. She says, "Oh yeah, yeah, somebody did let me go. You're right." So they're like, "Oh, whoops." Kind of too late now.
Shit.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, when we flash off of Galactica, we're back with Baltar. You remember he is now on one of the Cylon base
ships.
star,
Yeah, the base
and
stars,
he's having this great dream about sitting on Colonial One with Laura and Bill, and Six shows up, and I think it's just very informing on his character that he's like,
yeah.
Baltar, we knew it wasn't your fault, and then Laura makes a pass at him, and she goes to kiss him, and that's when he wakes up. So I'm just like, that's
such a cringe scene, but I mean,
big time.
You don't like you said, it tells you a lot about Baltar.
Yeah, reminds you. And then but I mean, he's on this base star and he's living kind of the sexy life. He's sitting around naked, sitting on a shade lounge, wearing a robe when he gets up, except for his 7-foot tall Cylon Centurion chaperone that won't let him leave the room. Yeah, kind of rough stuff. So back on Galactica, Sam and Kara are not doing so good. They're trying to have a conversation, and she's just like, "Just don't. I'm in a different place now." And
yes, we see once again the very mercurial nature of Kara Thrace.
Right, because you'll find out there's a big telltale scene. Is it later in the season where we get a big recap of why Lee and Kara kind of ended their friendship, because at this point you don't necessarily know.
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
But that episode very much shows that she's, Miss Hot and Miss Cold. So Laura's talking with Tom Zarek, who is actually the president because Baltar is gone.
And he was the vice president, even though he was like underground, but he was still legally the vice president. Right,
exactly. So he agrees to resign. He agrees that Laura will become vice president. He'll resign so that she resumes the post. And because he's being very real, because he knows that Adama hates his guts and is not going to back him up. So he's not going to have the presidency.
But then Laura also offers him the vice presidency. So they're basically just resign.
Exactly. It's what's the game I'm thinking? It's
musical
like Hubert.
Chairs.
It's musical chairs with the colonial government. Yeah. We're back in the CIC. It looks like shit. I mean, it just everything is broken. And then Gata shows up. He's in civvies, and Saul's there, and he starts heckling him. I mean, it's not
even
rough.
Heckling. He's just like, he's having none of it. He's like, "What the hell are you doing on my ship?"
Yeah.
Like, all right, Saul.
Yeah. And I said, speaking of not doing good, I said the real power couple of the show to me is Bill and Saul, and they're doing even worse. Because Bill sends Saul packing because he's wasted and he's at work and he's just not hacking it. But so we go back to the next session of the Circle, the Drumhead trial, and Saul is just really all over the place.
He is wasted.
Yeah. And one of the guys in the tribunal is Connor, who I think we saw in New Caprica, but we definitely see more shades of him as we get into the kind of back.
Yeah. Very briefly there.
Yeah. We get into the back half of the series, and we really find out he's a crook bloke. He's just not a good guy. But he lost a son in the Exodus, and so he's obviously very broken the same way everybody is. So it's holy cow. Gata is the next one up as they're going through the Drumhead, and I bought, oh boy, we need a commercial break.
Yeah.
And Saul is like basically, I think, Saul is like, well, I'd love it if we could give him a pass and blah blah blah. And then the chief is like, Sam in particular is like, what the hell would he even done in that condition? But everybody's out for blood. It seems like all of the votes are guilty. But Sam can't take it anymore, and he bails. He's just like, I can't do this anymore. And they said, well, if we don't have 6 people, the
We can't
tribunal
do
is
it.
done. And then we cut away. We're back on the Baystar, and 6 is talking. No, it's Deanna. It's a Xena warrior princess talking to Baltar and saying, well, there's a deadlocked vote as far as if you can stay or not.
What we're
And
gonna
6,
do with you.
yeah, 6 is the deciding vote. And he's like, well, that should be easy because she's my girlfriend and shit. So, but yeah, they cut back to we see Lee reporting to his dad. He still has his commander's bars on, but he's still fat. But he's not as fat, because he says in a moment, he says, hey, I've dropped half a stone, which is like 20 pounds.
Yeah,
Like
he's losing weight.
yeah, he lost
But-
20 pounds in 3 days. That's pretty impressive. They must have Ozempic.
Rest.
They must have Ozempic. I think Ozempic in the future, in this time
In
frame.
the pseudo future.
So, yeah, sort of future. Or but it was the stress that made him fat, but now the stress is going the other way around.
I was just gonna say, or,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like everyone else, he crapped himself as they were so scared with the ship falling out of the sky. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Oh, there you go. That's how he lost weight. We have Gata in the mess hall, and Starbuck comes up to him, and they're having just a very tense exchange, and that tension is revisited when we get into the central plot line in the middle of the last season. No, excuse me, in the back half of the last season, with what happens with Gata kind of taking the lead with that.
Yep.
But at this point, you feel very sympathetic for him. You'll find that when we get to that point, you really won't. So.
Yeah.
Back in session. Oh yeah. So they bring Starbuck in to replace Sam, and I quote the famous line from Dodgeball: "Bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out."
Yeah,
Like,
let's put another bloodthirsty crazy person.
yeah, she's like, yeah, because she does. She has it out with Sam because he comes back. And I wrote, I said, somebody take this Kara back. This one's broken, because she's totally toast. But anyway, no matter how much the debate, Gata is sentenced. So they grab him, knock him out, zip tie him, put a bag over his head, and they got him sitting there, and they're gonna flush him. And Starbuck can't take it. She says Gata says, you know what, I'm not going to beg for my life. I did what I did. I wish I could do more. He says, I even, I did a dead drop to pass information to the resistance. And this perks up the chief's ear, because he knows that, because the chief was the one who took those drops. So at the last moment, they spare him, and
Starbuck is not happy about it, however.
Yeah, but it's what's really going on. It's the truth.
Yeah, and I will give her credit for that. Is she didn't just give in to her revenge. She did well, he's not actually guilty in the way that he deserves death. So
right, exactly.
But she's super pissed about it.
Exactly.
She wants to take it out on somebody.
We cut back to another scene with Rosalind and Bill and Tom Zarek. And turns out the drumhead was entirely his idea. He set it up. He gives this long speech, and this is where you get a leopard doesn't change its spots kind of situation. He set the whole thing up so that all of these traitors could be rubbed off the board before Laura takes over. And Laura's like, great, but we have due process and law and all the stuff that we obviously have in a democratic system. And Zarek is like, well, if you let them do that, they'll showboat for months. It'll tear this fleet apart. So Laura says, oh yeah, she gets her Oprah moment where she gives pardons for all in a press conference that she holds when she's being sworn in as a president. And in tandem over on the Baystar, the Cylons have allowed Baltar to stay. And that's the end of it. So, pretty intense.
Yeah.
We stole, we really just
terms from Deep Space Nine.
We stole terms and from TNG, because we had the episode The Drumhead, which was a classic from season 4 of TNG. But this really leans into just how fucked up our people are. I mean, everybody's broken, and they're kind of broken for good. Everybody had all this peace, all this excitement and zest about going down to New Caprica at the end of last season, and then this happened, and you can't, there are some things that just kind of can't be fixed. So
no,
the
one of the interesting things about this episode is it makes it very clear that the drumhead was the wrong choice,
right?
Which is a good thing. I would argue that it was a good point that the episode was making, because you have a lot of stuff of like, hey, I don't like this person because like they did something that I find bad. Like, okay, yeah, it might have been bad, but you still need to treat this person as a person, and maybe there are reasons why they did it. Like we learned Gata was trying to do trying to help how he could. And thankfully our characters like realize that revenge is not the best option.
Revenge is not the dish you want to have served. Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of there's some good stuff going on in here with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you understand Zarek's logic about doing it. You're
but
like,
as usual,
cold.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, as usual, it's a terrible decision.
Right. He's doing, Tom Zarek revolutionary shit where he's like, you know what?
Yep.
These people got to go, and it's an enormous waste of time to do due process. So, they
don't fit the movement's line, so they got to be purged.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, that's how like, radical groups work, but that's not how a civilization operates.
Exactly. So Laura makes the call that everybody they're just going to do that and start over. So great stuff. But again, it really sets the tone that everybody didn't just come back to the ship and it's all rainbows and farts and everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, all right, take us to episode 6.
All right. Episode 6, Torn. Survivor count is 41,422, so we're down by 12.
But yeah. So they managed to flush 12 people, but so they spaced. But 55 people were spared, or 50 something people were spared. Yeah.
Directed by Jean de Sagaznak.
Sure, why not?
And then written by excuse.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Written by Ann Cofield Saunders. Aired November 3rd of 2006. As Starbuck and Ty seed discontent among the Galactica's crew, as they're wont to do, Baltar attempts to help the Cylons deal with a virus spreading among their race.
Ruh-roh. Ooh, Cylon STD? I don't know.
Kind of, yeah. Baltar's doing his Baltar thing again.
Yeah.
Hilariously, these few episodes remind me a little bit of the original Battlestar, where Baltar is sitting on like his giant chair doing
that was so weird, and I love it. The original Battlestar, which I think we're actually going to start talking about on the show with my buddy Brian Cole, because he's one of my buddies who loves older TV shows because we're about the same age. That was John Koklios, who was our very first Klingon. Core the Klingon back in 1967. But he was great in 1978, sitting there on his big throne like this. But you're right. It's very cool, as a throwback to that. So, I love this. So it's a very saucy start to the episode. Baltar is obviously getting a lot of he's sleeping with both chicks. He's sleeping with the 6 and the 3. So 6 and a 3. So he's sleeping with 9. That's the name of the 3-way. It's 9. But bump 3, 3, and 3, 3, 6, and 12. It's a 12. It's a 12. The Cylons want to go to Earth as well, but a Baltar can't find it. Watch him scramble. Did you see the way he scrambled? Oh well. Yeah, it doesn't mean that I can. Even if I don't, I might know a lot, but I don't really think.
Freaks out. He's like, I can help. I know all sorts of things. It's like all of your notes are on the Galactica. You don't know
right, exactly. You did not put them on the cloud, so we cannot get them off of Google.
So they can't get them.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, so we cut over to Galactica, and it's exercise training time in the Vipers. Everybody sucks. It's just a total
crash.
There's a crash because Starbuck is just being a dick. You do catch as Lee is flying the plate on the outside of his plane. He is now Major Lee again, and he is also completely back in shape. So that's great.
They do a whole shot. A scene later where they show him, all muscly again.
Yeah, he's weighing himself in the gym on one of those scales that you had when you were in junior high with the thing that slides across.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, don't." He lows her. He's like, "Don't ever let me get fat again." And I'm like, I don't. Whatever it is he's doing, I want. I would love to drop 20-something pounds to get on Ripley, so that works for me. So, but things are not going great for the survivors. Starbuck is clearly suicidal, or she doesn't give a shit, and Saul is just. he's drunk from
He's
sun up
drunk.
to
He is
sundown.
drunk as a fish.
Yeah. So yeah, things are just not going super great. In addition to that, as Kara is getting up in the morning, here's Casey, the little girl from New Caprica, and her mom. And Kara's like, "Look, let me do you. Let me stop you right there. I don't need this kid around. I don't want you around. I'm not good for your kid. Beat it." And so yeah, Kara's she's lashing out. But again, it
Yeah.
makes sense because why would she want to hang around with the 2-year-old? It's really pretty awkward. Yes, I did wrote Lee got back into shape fast. I said I love it if it was easy. It was that easy for the rest of us. It'd be pretty great.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I thought this was kind of cool. The scene. So you have in one of the probably Baltar's old lab. You got Gata and Bill and Laura and maybe Apollo as well. And they're going through the Scrolls of Pythia, that book that was covered in blood from when they were down on Kobol.
Yeah.
And I love it how they can read it, even though they usually use English like lettering, but you can see it's all this weird script. So it's kind of like Old English, but the script kind of looked like Arabish, like from Star Wars. So I thought it was like, maybe it's like Latin, like maybe that's something that it's like, well, everybody can read Latin or speak it or whatever.
The text always reminded me more of Cardassian print, actually.
Oh, with the little,
it's more angular.
It's all, the little, everything's kind of pictograph. So
yeah. So I mean, but I think that it seems appropriate, the relation with like Star Wars, where they have all this text that we can't read, but although if you translate it, it's just our alphabet. So
yeah, all the Star Wars breakdown videos I watch on either New Rockstars or Screen Crush, their people do pull the letters off. So they're actually it'll say, well, there was a sign when they were running through and it said welcome. You know what I mean? So like it
all means something. It's just kind of funny.
And the writers do actually take the time to do
usually
that.
Make it in universe stuff. It's actually one of the noticeable changes between the original cut and the special edition in episode 4, because all the Death Star panels got changed.
Right, I remember. With Obi-Wan walking around. But anyway, we're
completely
going down a Star Wars rabbit hole.
But it's the same thing with here with their own text.
Exactly.
I found it interesting that Gata was able to do this that quickly.
Yeah. Well, he and Baltar were pretty simpatico, so maybe it's something that he picked up a trick.
Strange minds think alike. I don't know.
I guess, but Gata does figure out that they've got to go to this particular star conversation thing that looks like a lion's head. Baltar is giving the same information to the Cylons, so it definitely looks like they're going to show up in the same place at the same time. So a new confrontation is available. We learn in a scene when Baltar is walking with Six that Cylons get to exist in their permanent happy place of projection. So it's like, it's Six is walking, but she's like, I'm in a beautiful forest. And I'm thinking, hey, if it was me, I'm walking down a corridor in the Enterprise, or I'm on the bridge of the Enterprise, or I'm around 100 naked ladies, whatever, but you can do that stuff. That's pretty good. In the pilot rec room, I thought it was funny because Hilo's like, well, hey, Lieutenant Agathon, Sharon, his wife, needs a call sign, and everybody starts shouting them out, Titania, Chrome Dome. And I was like, those are Marvel Comics characters. That's funny. It just made me chuckle a little bit. But that's before Ty and Starbuck come in, and they
do decide to call her Athena, though.
Yeah, she becomes Athena, and that actually comes from Hot Dog, that's Bodhi Almost. That's Edward James Almost's son in real life.
And that is a call sign of one of the first female pilots in the original Battlestar.
Right, yeah, and back in the original Battlestar, if you've not watched it, people had a single name, like Bill Adama was just Adama. Lee Adama was just Apollo. Starbuck, who was a dude, was just Starbuck. And Athena was the sister of Apollo's character, and was in and they had a little brother who was Rick Springfield, one of my favorite musicians in the pilot, who died very quickly. But anyway, tune back in because we will start doing that show pretty soon. But Ty and Starbuck are now in the ready room, and they've turned it into us and them. Well, people down on the planet suffer, and you guys all up here were just eating and drinking and having a good time or whatever.
Your hot showers and all of this stuff, and we were down there drinking in the mud. It's like, okay, all right, Ty.
And it's just getting worse and worse to the point that that even Hilo brings this to Bill's attention, and that's going to come to fruition in a moment. But back on the Cylon Bastar, I do love it. If I'm not mistaken, the first mention of the Final Five, because Baltar asks, he says, I've seen 7 models here on the ship. I've heard that there's 12. Where are the other 5? And 6 gives him the whole smooth-headed Klingon Star Wars, like
We don't
we
talk
don't talk
about it.
about it. We don't talk about it. It's not a thing. But it's very much going to be a thing as the show continues to evolve. But
Oh yes, it's not important whatsoever. Don't look into
yeah.
it.
So what we do find out is we're now doglegging into, hey, we're stealing a plot from Star Trek The Next Generation, which is going to permeate throughout the next episode, because a base star jumped out to the coordinates that Baltar kind of made up, and they're not responding, or they end up reporting back that there's an issue. Also, first episode where we meet a hybrid that I labeled the Cylon's weird sister wife, because she's just the way she talks in nonsense, and everybody kind of fawns all over her, and she's just very weird. It's just kind of a weird setup.
I don't entirely understand the purpose of it, other than they wanted to have a face to speak for the ship.
Right. So yeah, so it's like if the Enterprise, it's like Thomas the Tank Engine. That's what I would liken it to.
Yeah.
If the Enterprise had a face, like sometimes you'll see a meme of like, it wasn't Thomas the Tank Engine, but there's that JJ the jet plane. Think about an X-wing with a face on it, and that would be like this, or the Enterprise with with a lady's face.
Yeah, or if you're familiar with this isn't quite the same way, but like if you're familiar with Doctor Who, the one episode where they put the TARDIS in a person's body, and so then the TARDIS can interact with people.
There you go.
It's a very odd moment, but that works. This is
yeah, and they do the same thing with Data with the nanites. Remember, the nanites have to take over Data so that he can speak for them. But yeah, this is just, and again, the hybrid thing goes on, and in other episodes, it's because it's the same woman. She appears to be a woman. She has a woman's face. In most of them, until we see an older version of a hybrid. We already saw. We already end up seeing that because we already talked about Razor. We already talked about Razor. So yeah, and that was an old man, but he was a prototypical version. So is this the first time we see the regular hybrid?
I think this is the first time we see the regular hybrid. Yeah.
Gotcha. So anyways, Baltar says, I'll go to the base ship because I can't get infected by anything. So he does, and he borrows a Raptor to do it so that he can,
Which is amazing that the man can fly.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Didn't they say it was auto programmed?
I think they did say it was auto. Because I was sitting there like, man, you got to have an autopilot on this thing, because this dude he can't do crap.
Yeah. This cracked me up when he's walking around this ship, and there's he's documenting it. He has a disposable camera, and I thought that's very early 2000s, because or even the 90s, because I know I ran the photo processor in our family's photography business, 1 hour photo, when I was a teenager. So it's like clunk, 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 print. So yeah, he's got to return these, and they process them, and they give them back to him at the CVS that's located on the base star when he gets home. But he
give them the mile-long receipts.
Oh yeah, no, it's in meters. So meters or kilometers, exactly. Baltar does find the source, and it's a probe. It kind of looks like the Nomad probe from Star Trek.
It kind of does.
TOS. It's just very like clunky and like man-made looking. So Baltar's talking to one of the models of 6, and she starts saying, "You're a murderer! You're a murderer!" And he kind of snaps, telling her to shut up, and he chokes her, and then he gets back online with the healthy base star. He's like, "Nope, everybody's over here's dead," which we find out in the next episode they're not, but he happens to.
Everything's fine, situation normal. How are you?
Yeah. We have kind of a big power. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. So as I said, Hilo had run off to tell Bill what was going on down in the rec room, and Bill's just had it. So he walks in and he says, "Give me the room." And everybody leaves, and he says,
"Everyone thinks that it's just him going to like put Saul in his spot," and then Starbuck stands up. He's like, you sit your butt back down."
Yeah, and then she says, "Starbuck, give me your sidearm," and he takes it and
loads
Cox
around
throws it on the table, and Saul says, "What are you doing? There's live round in there." And he says, "The two of you got to knock it out because blah, blah, blah." And Starbuck says, "Yeah, well, blah, blah." And then he just kicks her chair over backwards. So this is tough love 101. And he says, "You were like a daughter to me once, not anymore. Get out." And so she storms off, and then he and Bill continue to have it out. And Bill says, he says, "I'm not I'm not the man who's your best friend anymore. You won't be seeing me again." And I'm going to go to my quarters and drink myself to death. And that's the end of it for him. Kara, however, I do love this. She walks into the communal bathroom, and I love that you see this. It was funny. We're rewatching Ahsoka right now, and Sabine does this in the first episode. Apparently, it's
Mhm.
really easy to have a big knife if you're a woman with long hair and just cut it, and it looks perfect because that's what Kara does. But I like she has
Well,
a boot.
Kanan does it too
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Rebels.
that's true. She has a boot knife and just pulls it off and just cuts off a bit of her hair. Yet you see her in the next scene, and it looks like she also then supplemented that by going to the onboard beauty shop. So she's back to
Probably.
look at she's back to looking normal, and she even goes
Yeah, she's got
down.
the haircut that
Yeah,
she had in season 1,
yeah, one or
basically.
two, and she at least goes back to she does make good with Casey's mom and hugs Casey, and then she cries, and so she's on the road to recovery. Ty is just in his quarters, just drinking and crying and sniffing Ellen's clothes. It's just it's
He's a
awful.
mess. He's an
Yeah,
absolute mess.
he's a total mess. Racetrack and Athena are on a raptor, and they jump into range of this Lion's Head Nebula, but when they turn their heads, they see the dead base star with a bunch
Just
of the
destroyed
Raiders.
Raiders.
They're just flopping in space, and Sharon quotes some Cylon biblical verse, and she knows that it's bad, and that's a to be continued. We're going into the next episode, so
Yep.
I love it. But it's like it's funny because Ron Moore was one of the very pivotal writers of TNG.
Mhm.
And I don't know that he wrote the episode that this rips off, that this two-parter rips off, which is I, Borg, with Hugh Borg from season 5. I'd have to double check the stats on that. But what you find out when we get into the next episode is that that's exactly where this is going. Oh, Peter, Peter's not going to live. He's got that Cylon virus.
I guess so.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. But I like that. I like this. They at least move the needle a little bit.
Yeah.
Because after this, Starbucks seems to be kind of okay. Because in the next couple,
Mostly, yeah.
in the next couple of episodes, she just kind of seems to pull her head out of her ass. But it's going to take a little bit longer with Saul. But I like this for
Yeah.
everything they went through. It's great. It shakes loose kind of that sitcom-y vibe, or even really Star Trek does it, where
Mhm.
because it's a planet of the week, or the best example that I can think of, and it kind of ties back to Hugh Borg, kind of the two-parter
Yeah.
of the Descent, the end of season 6, beginning of season 7, is that Data gets hijacked by his brother, and he's
Yep.
murderous and all this different stuff. But at the end of it, when he's fixed again, it never comes. Everything's cool.
Yeah.
Or when Dr. Sung activates him in that Brothers episode in
And
season
he
4,
locks
and he
out
just
the entire ship.
and at the end of it, everything is totally fine. So it's nice to see, it's a credit to Ron Moore, because he always said this about Voyager too. He says Voyager was really a ship that was lost and alone on the other side of the galaxy with no starbase to fix it up. It would be falling apart all the time. And that's what
Yeah.
happens. That's why Galactica looks increasingly shittier as time goes by, because you remember what it was like for them to get away from Caprica. The ship was decimated. They barely got away.
Mhm.
And so the ship just continues to look like shit for the rest of the series. So
Yep.
so it's very similar. They didn't all escape from Caprica, and they're like, we're home now, so we're gonna get over it and stuff. They don't get over it. They're never gonna get over
They
it.
don't.
They're totally broken. So any other thoughts before we move on?
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencaster. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencaster is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution, provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of Zen knowing Zencaster's multi layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Not really. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this particular episode.
Yeah.
It's good, especially with that confrontation where Bill finally is just like, "No, I'm done with your shit."
Yeah, he's a big tough love type, and I think he pulls it off well.
It's one of the things that I know that we keep talking about, but it's one of the things that really makes this version of Bill Adama enjoyable.
Big
where
time.
He's just like he takes charge with those relationships and just like, nope. I know this is going to suck for you. It sucks for me too, but we're doing this because you need to get better.
Yeah, we need you. I gotta run a ship, and I just I just love the way he does. I got a ship to run. Yeah, good stuff. All right, jumping into episode 7 is A Measure of Salvation. Survivor count 41,420. So did we lose some more? We lost people.
2 people.
Okay, I don't know why, but we did. Bill Eagles doing the writing doing the directing, and Michael Agnelli doing the directing from November of 2006. With the discovery of the dying Cylon base star, Adama and Roslin debate the morality of deploying a biological weapon against the Cylons with the intention of eradicating them. Thankfully, Hugh Borg does not show up. Yeah.
We don't have an Admiral Nechayev to give us that.
Yes. To give him the hard time. Exactly. So, but it's great. The episode starts. It's a family outing. Everybody is together in the family station wagon. I mean, the Raptor, because it's Lee. It's Lee and it's Sharon. And apparently now that they're both officers, they're pals. Because remember, back when Lee first met her, he was going to put a bullet through her head.
Mm-hmm.
But now everybody's good. So they get aboard the base star, and I thought the skin jobs laying all over the place. I'm like, it's like Jonestown, and they all drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, they're all in various states of like, just
it's very weird. Set dressing, as it were, the way they have everybody laying around.
Well, because you see in the previous episode, like some of them are like throwing up, and even when our people walking in the room are like, "Oh my god, what the hell?" Because it stinks, and but they're not all dead. There's a handful of them that are still alive, and it's conveniently
didn't kill them all.
Yeah, it's conveniently one copy of each model that they rescue, except for Brother Cavill. And did we have a Deanna? I know that we have.
No, Deanna's not.
I think we have 2. We have 4, which is Leoben. There's 6, of course. 5 is Simon, the doctor.
Yeah, he's there.
And so it's basically those guys, and they're all dying. But Sharon needs to find out what's going on, so she has to stick her hands into the goo where they get information from. But it's all like black and cruddy. I'm like, I hope she washes her hands after this.
Yeah, it's infected.
Yeah. Plus, she's a Cylon. Is she going to catch this? So we're kind of left for that. Back on the base star, things are not going so great for Baltar, because the obvious conclusion, or at least the conclusion that the skin jobs are making, is that
it's a trap.
He planted the virus. And I said maybe he should consider putting a shirt on, because he's sitting around naked. There's way too much casual nudity going on.
There's too much Baltar sitting with no clothes or with a bathrobe. It's like, dude, just...
I know, he thinks he's the Hugh Hefner in space. It's terrible.
And he doesn't even have the personality to go along with it.
And it's weird. In that whole scene where he's talking to 6 and 3, his voice is really raspy. I'm like, it sounds like he has a cold. Maybe he should put a shirt on.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion from that. So
he has the virus.
The good idea is that they're going to plug him into this ouchie machine, I called it, which is just basically going to give him shocks and torture to try to get a confession out of him.
It feels like the what's it called? There's like
is it the Tantalus field, like from
not
TOS?
The Tantalus field? There's a chair that they use in Farscape to get people's brains, and it like you spin in it, but it's also attached to your head. It kind of reminded me of that.
Oh my
Also
goodness.
mixed with like the chair almost did look like something from like the 70s. So I
Yeah,
thought
oh
that was
my
kind of
gosh.
funny.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good mix because obviously that's a source of
Yeah.
the original show. Back on Galactica, humans are good. They don't get the skin job virus, but Sharon has to stay for observation. The virus is so now they haven't seen him in Bill's quarters and coddles there. It's one of the few times he's wearing his uniform that he's not just in his scrubs and he's not
Yeah.
smoking.
It looks really funky because we've only
Right.
seen him wearing it like 3 times.
And so he says, well, it's a rat flu. The skin jobs can get a vaccine to stay alive, but there's an enzyme in their blood that will break it down, so it's not a cure. They have to get shots to stay alive. But maybe we can trick them into giving us more information by using a little subterfuge and telling them that they have to have this, or basically telling them that we're the only way you can stay alive is by getting these shots, but we won't give them to you if you don't cooperate. So they end up picking up Simon, who is actor Rick Worthy. He's from Southfield. He's a Michigan boy, but interrogations are his thing. He's getting interrogated here. You remember there's an episode of Voyager where he played a crewman on the Equinox, where Janeway was gonna cut him loose on those weird aliens that turn you into crystals. So
And he also plays a vampire in Supernatural and gets like tied up and
I know
interrogated there.
he's like O'Brien's protege, always.
Yeah, he's the multiverse O'Brien. He has to suffer.
Yeah, across all. But so this is when Lee was the one who says, "Hey," and this is where we go fully fledged into the plot line of the Star Trek episode. He says, "Exact same plan. But instead of just infecting them and sending them back, which is what they wanted to do with you, they infect them, and then when a fleet jumps in, so they have this plan. We'll go to this trade route where we know the Cylons will show up, and they'll show up." We'll cap all of the infected Cylons. They'll download back to the resurrection ship, and then it will proliferate and everyone will die. So everybody, then it just really turns into Hilo becomes the Dr. Crusher role, and he's like, oh gosh, we do this, we're no better than they are. And Laura is just like, fuck you, dude. You know what? This is one of the times when I'm just gonna say, they're trying to kill us. We have this actual chance to kill them. It's not as dire. The Star Trek part of it, frankly, was not as dire. Because the Borg,
they weren't immediate stakes. Yeah,
the Borg they're bad, but after the best of both worlds, they went away. We didn't see them again, but they're still out there. Whereas opposed to the entire focus of the show is that our people are running away trying to survive.
Yeah.
So
this the Star Trek one would be more akin in this universe of like, hey, the Cylons are off in their space. Let's throw something out there and infect.
Right. So that they don't eventually come back and kill us. So, but Laura's just not having it. They go back and forth, and it's ultimately decided that no, we're going to move forward with this because this is the right way to play it. Back on the Baystar, Baltar, the Ouchie machine, but at least he's projecting having sex with Six, so I guess there's worse way to be tortured, but he's still being tortured in real life.
Such a weird scene.
Yeah, it's weird, and the ultimate conclusion is that he's talking like he's talking to Six in his head, but 3 is there, and she's like, then she starts touching his face like, oh, and I'm like, this is just going to turn into a 3-way between the 3 of them,
which it does,
and it absolutely does in the next episode. Turns out Sharon is okay. She has she has antibodies from the baby and blah blah, so on and so forth. So Bill and Laura are having the final debate where Bill says, hey, I think Hilo's right. Laura's like, you know what, no, we're going to do this because it's our only real chance for survival, blah blah blah, erase our humanity, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. So they move forward with Lee's plan, and I had to pause and go back and write this down. They jump into an area of space, and we get a cap on the bottom that says the region of NCD 2539 above/north. What does that mean? Is that something in real parlance that makes any sense?
I will make a hazard of a guess.
Please.
Galactic north.
Okay.
Z-axis up.
Very good. And NCD means navigational cluster
direction.
There we go. Look, wow, good work, Peter. I like
this
it.
This is why I world build.
Yes, exactly. It's good stuff. So we haven't heard a peep out of Starbuck in this episode, but then she shows up and she's in one of the Vipers. So kind of weird. She's such a major character, but she has absolutely no role in this episode where, she would have had some, big obnoxious opinion, but maybe they thought they had too many annoying opinions already and they couldn't stomach one more.
They probably didn't want to, because if you threw Thrace into the debate with like Lee and Bill and Laura and Hilo, she would just blow up.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were just like, this is tense already. We don't need to have it turn into like
you don't need somebody who's just going to throw a hand grenade in the middle of the conversation.
Exactly.
So, Hilo, he's pulling apart a panel to sabotage something, and I love. We don't really know what we think it has something to do with the air system, but it's explained in a minute. But I do love how when he's pulling apart, it looks like the wiring you would see from a 1980s computer going into a printer with all the little rainbow long cords and the big blocky.
So what it looked like to me was it was a I don't think it was like that old. It could have been, but what it looked like to me was the power brick from a computer.
I loved it
because that's what those connections are. The power points from a computer power brick into like the motherboard and the different pieces of.
And I love it, and it's funny because you see, and particularly in this next episode that we're going to talk about, where it's all told in flashback. The fancier ships really look more Star Trek like. Galactica is over 50 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, here's my car, a Honda CRV, and here's your car, or my first car, which was a 1977 Buick Regal with a column shifter and an AM/FM radio. Yep. Basically you're, which is funny because my dad always had an expression to describe a giant car because he drove Suburbans for a family business. He would sometimes refer to them as the battle car Galactica. So that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's like a 95 fantastic Suburban, which was the first Suburban my dad owned for our family business.
I love that battle
car. But battle car. Anytime you see a giant battle car Galactica,
I am now always going to think of that
battle car Galactica. You can thank my father, Robert Carden, for that one.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful, cool dogfight here because Starbucks says, let's frack up some toasters, people. So I thought it was really weird but it was pivotal to obviously the fact that Apollo was driving the main plot line in this, but he's part of the Death Squad execution squad that's going to go in and cap all the skin jobs instead of being part of the fight, and he's the CAG.
Yeah, because it definitely feels like there's really no reason for him to be
right. Because it's not a tough assignment. They're just going to go in
laying there. Going,
it could have just been the sergeant Matthias who could have gone and done that. But they go in there and all the skin jobs are already dead. And as it turns out, big surprise. Hilo, and Bill explains it to Laura. He says, well, the air system, if it's reversed and sucks all the air out, it'll lock the door. And then that's what
they say that they asphyxiated. So,
before that, however, Hilo is having this big, well, they're going to come for me. And, he's talking to Sharon. He's like, they're always coming for one of us and blah, blah. And, oh, baby, we got to stick together. I did notice his uniform looks like it's about a size too big because
it's like mine because the collar's like way out.
And I wrote, I guess tailors are a little bit hard to come by after the apocalypse. There's nobody. Yeah, you're right. You never see anybody related to the quartermaster, even though So I don't know. It's nobody with a sewing machine. But at the end of it, Bill said, he's having this conversation with Laura, and he's like, you know what? We're just going to let it go. We're just going to let it go. He didn't really do anything. And Laura's like, she's annoyed by this, but she's like, yeah, all right. Because maybe she's thinking back to a couple of episodes ago where she gave this blanket pardon to everybody over in New Caprica. So she's like, you know what?
Bill's entitled to give pardons to some of his officers.
I guess we need him more than we need to kill him. So fine. We'll do it. So, but what we do find out through the research and analyzing the scans or whatever their people took, that the beacon was planted by the 13th tribe on their way out of Earth and towards what became the colonies. So it is literally a roadmap, and the virus is proof to it because the virus turns out was something that was infectious and recorded in ancient scrolls 2,000 years previous.
Hilariously, because it's a rat plague, it makes me think of the Black Death from Europe. So, which was probably entirely on purpose.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that was pretty good. So that's a wrap. Good stuff. I will say, yes, they ripped off a Star Trek plot. Yes, it could have been one that Ron Moore wrote part of back in 1992. But they did it in a way that really served the show. So it's, even though it's like, come on, this lazy writing. I really didn't think it was lazy writing.
No, it
I
wasn't.
think they did something solid.
They did a slightly different take, in
Yeah,
part because the stakes were different.
yeah,
So,
that's good stuff. All right, take us home. Episode 8.
episode 8, Hero. Number of survivors 41,421. We actually gained one.
Did
And
we?
you'll
We
find
did.
out why.
Oh, yes, we do. Oh, that's right.
Directed by Michael Reimer, written by David Icke. Aired November 17th of 06. Adama confronts one of the darkest moments of his career. Well, early career, I guess.
So far.
when Bulldog Novacek, a pilot who is thought to have died years ago during a secret mission, escapes the Cylons and arrives on Galactica.
Dun, dun, dun. And our guest star, who we see in a kind of a sweaty and slimy, like you just see in kind of the kind of his nose and his brow and stuff,
Yep.
Turns out to be actor Carl Lumbly, who was on Alias, which was a great show in the early 2000s, which if I ever get my buddy Steve Steckity to agree to a date, he and I are going to talk about that on this program.
Nice.
And there was another show, Peter, you probably don't know anything about this. There was a short-lived 90s sci-fi show called Mantis, but M.A.N.T.I.S. So it was an acronym of something, where he wore like a really shitty, like Iron Man like armor and fought crime. He was the guy. He was also one of the weird. He was also
heard of that.
One of the weird aliens in a cult classic science fiction film from the 1980s called "The Further Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai." Which, if you haven't seen it,
familiar with it. I haven't.
If you haven't seen it,
I
I have it on disc, so I don't know if it's available for streaming. I would recommend. The star of it is Peter Weller, who is RoboCop, and it's just really a goofy film. But anyway,
it's referenced in a book / film that I quite enjoy. So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, I did love very early on because so that's, you see this guy fleeing and sweating, and then we jump over to Colonial One, and it's Laura and what the hell is her,
whose name is escaping me.
My God, thank you. Me too. And she becomes a more important character as time goes on.
Becomes very important.
Yeah,
but I can't remember her name.
Tori. It's Tori. Tori's her name. I do love, and I went back and I paused it. They're talking about Bill because they're throwing out a bunch of old papers. She has his file open, and if you pause it, you can read his entire service record. And it's weird to see they give you see their dating system, like he was born on N2/75, so it's like their internal calendar or whatever it is, but it says he was born here, his mother was such and such, his dad was blah blah blah, and it's the characters that you meet in the Caprica prequel that takes place after the series.
I haven't actually seen that one,
but it goes through his whole service record, which is consistent with things that we, he was in the service, he mustered out after the end of the war, he was in the Merchant Marine, he came back, and he worked his way up to having a command.
It's something that Ron Moore may have learned from the Okudas, is have the stuff on screen actually show things that are relevant,
but make it a fun little Easter egg that somebody that
especially no one's going to read it, but if someone does grab a screen cap,
right, and especially in this day and age, people can go back and enjoy it. And it's not like with the Okudas back in those days where they would have just like the little stuff on the doors on the Enterprise, but in standard definition in a distance you couldn't read it.
I'm saying like the readouts that they put on the LCAR screen, like they usually actually said something.
Right. Exactly.
Was relevant to whatever they were doing.
Right. It wasn't just blinking lights that you saw on the bridge of the old Enterprise. So anyway, so we go back to, I'm going to just keep calling him Carl. He is in a raider. He's being chased by a third, but you're very much getting the vibe that these ships are really trying not to catch him. And I'm like, this is 2 TNG plot ripoffs in a row. Because one of my favorite episodes was early season 3 of TNG was the Defector, and it had to do with the Romulan Defector. Mm-hmm. And I said, what is this, the Orville? Because that's why I can't watch the Orville, because it's just so blatantly.
They do a bunch of episode ripoffs. They get better as time goes on.
I've often thought about going back and watching the rest of that show, but it hasn't happened yet.
I think the third season actually stands on its own. But.
Yeah. I really don't love how people try to lump the Orville in with Star Trek and have a story about the Orville on like a Star Trek website, like Trek Movie, but that's a personal annoyance of mine that we don't need to go into. So the Raider lands, they're rolling it into the bay, and it's funny, they have a picture of you see the side of the Raider as it's rolling in, and I think it looks exactly like the Xenomorph from Aliens. I just thought in that particular perspective really kind of grabbed me. So, but anyway, it stops. The slot opens and this dude drops out. He's covered in goo. He's got little nappy dreadlocks, and he turns out to be Bill's star protege pilot guy before Starbuck on his last command before Galactica. So they're welcoming him back, and I love this. We're getting flashbacks to Bill kind of setting the story of what happened to this guy. His name is Danny Novacek, or Bulldog, but he's being briefed by the admirals, 3 or 4 years back when this is happening, but he's being briefed by the most Canadian speaking admiral that they could possibly find. I mean, he expected this guy to pull up a plate of poutine or ask you for pea meal bacon. It was just so Canadian. It just made me chuckle. But hey, it's Space Canada. So yeah, I said Bill reunited with his male black version of Starbuck.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. So, he tells the story. How did you escape? Well, I was on a base star for all these years. The Cylons were really sickly, so I picked my moment and I got away, which sounds a little sus, but we'll get back to that.
Seems very convenient.
I did notice in Bulldog's flashback, and maybe this is one of these, hey, and then I lifted a car over my head. He one punches a Model 3 to death and breaks her nose, and does that thing where you break someone's nose and pushes a piece
Jams
of
it in the brain,
bone up to their brain. Yeah, exactly. So, but again, it's his recollection, and he looks like he's PTSD / seriously on drugs. But Bill tells his story as they're sitting around with Laura, how Bulldog got shot down. You're not seeing my air quotes if you're not watching us on Patreon. And Laura's just like, I think your stories might be bullshit. But we have a subplot back on our regular base star, where our Model 3 is just projecting some weird shit. She's running around on Galactica. She's being chased by Marines, and she gets to a door where it says end of the line. You see, either says end of the line or end of line, which would be a reference to Tron. Yeah, I prefer to think of it as a ladder.
That's what I was thinking. I thought it was pretty funny.
But when she wakes up, she is, just like I called it, in a bed with both Six and Baltar. They're both sleeping. So it's 3-way time. Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's a good deal for Baltar. That's all I can say. The
Cylons need to have standards.
He's one of the only dudes. You don't know if they don't seem to screw each other. So he's like the only guy. Like if they,
But still, this feels like that comic of like the one person yelling at the other. Oh, you could do so much better. But I love her. I was talking to her.
Oh my God. If you were the last man on Earth or the ship, yeah, exactly. We're back on Galactica, and we see Saul, and he's doing this weird thing where he's holding a cigarette in his hand and waving it over so that he can say, I can see it. But you see his eye socket with it's just blacked out. You can tell they did it with CGI. It's just pretty grody.
It's pretty
bad, he hasn't gotten to the point. But Bill walks in, and they obviously haven't talked in a while, and he's like, yeah, Danny Novacek is back. And he's like, oh, did you tell him what really happened? And Bill's like, I don't know why I came here, but I wrote, he knows what Bill did last summer. He knows what you did last summer, which was a stupid horror movie in the 90s. But Bulldog then drops by. He and Saul are buddies because obviously back on this other ship, which was called the Valkyrie, Bill and Saul were together back then, as they, like I said, they're the real romance of this show. They're the real, because they've always been together. And Bill then has Lee to his quarters, and he tells him the truth, while at the same time Saul is going through this with Bulldog. Bill had to shoot down the Stealth Star back then, which was the ship that Bulldog was in, to scramble the mission. So he had to shoot a missile, which we see in flashback, that blew up Bulldog's ship, but Bulldog punched out the last minute. But whoever there were unknown vessels closing in that were obviously Cylon, because it was behind the armistice line, and they snagged him, which is how he ended up in prison. So I wrote that the Admiralty, which Lee keeps referring to them, really reminds me of, I know I talk about G.I. Joe all the time, but in the comics, there was a cabal of generals that was the jugglers. They were always doing dirty shit. Or they were like the Illuminati, which is in Marvel Comics, the people making things happen behind the scenes. Saul has a good line here. Sometimes surviving can be its own death sentence, which that's his life currently,
Yeah,
because
you feel that when he says that. You're
yeah,
just like, oh, dude.
yeah,
Oh man.
he really nailed it. So Bill is really being overwhelmed, by his guilt, as he's talking to Lee, because he feels like he started the war. He feels like, oh, I provoked the Cylons because I was there. And Lee said, it was you're one man, the Admiralty made you do this. So if
You
they
made the
made
best
you,
call
yeah,
that you could at the
right,
time.
exactly. So, but the simple fact of the matter is, though, and nobody really knows it at this time, but it was the hacking of the Defense Department and the Colonial Defense Grid and Baltar and Six and all that. That's what really
That's what
made the
got
war happen.
everyone killed. Yeah.
Yeah, that got everyone killed. Whether that was provoked by this, we don't really end up finding out.
I don't think there's ever really an
Yeah,
explanation on the exact why the Cylons were just like, and we're
right.
gonna start killing people now.
Exactly. We are back on the base star. So 3 is now taken to having a Centurion shoot her and kill her physically,
Yeah.
and then erase the log. I don't understand. She tells the Centurion to erase the logs, but then does no one question how she got shot?
Why is she in a bloody heap in front of Centurion in
With
the
with a
hallway? I
bullet in
don't
her head,
know.
but yeah, it doesn't come out. But anyway, she's doing this to basically generate. It's kind of like a vision quest, but she has her first experience. We're in the opera house in this one, and she sees basically the glowed out versions of 5 figures, which in her vision are the final 5. So we're on our way to the ultimate
To
big
that
reveal,
reveal, yeah.
which is going to happen at the end of the season, or at least
Some of it, yeah.
at least 4/5 of it will. Uh, so we'll find out. Anyway, Starbuck is now sitting in the break room with her VCR, playing the footage back and forth, and she figures out that yes, the Romulans did not catch up with the scout ship fake out here, which was from the TNG plot. But anyway, Bulldog is, now that he knows what's up, he calls Bill and he's like, Bill, I got to see you, come to my quarters. And boy, Bill walks in and Bulldog just takes him. Oh yeah, so he knocks Bill out, ties him up, and then I do love it when Saul comes in. Saul might be drunk as shit, but he takes Bulldog down like he beats him like he stole something. He grabs him, flips him around, throws him against the wall, and
he just beats him down.
so Saul, even drunk as shit, is not a guy you'd want to meet in a dark alley. But
No.
this is the moment where Saul says to him, "Yeah, killing him is not going to fix anything. We all did shit that we regret," which is, he's obviously talking about himself. And he says, "We just have to find a way to move on from it." And so we then flash to Bill and Laura in her office, where he's trying to resign because he says, well, I can't run from the things I did anymore. And she said, bullshit. You're going to take this meritorious medal I'm going to give you because, you know what? It's not for you. It's
about
for them.
you.
Yeah. Which reminds me of a line from a great sitcom I love, that 70s show, where Red Foreman, who is the dad character played by Kurtwood Smith, who's a frequent Star Trek guest, says to Hyde, who is one of the kids in the show, hey, something about, either says something about either being in a family or being married means you got, having a girlfriend in his case is referring to, means sometimes you got to do a bunch of crap that you don't want to do. And that's this situation, especially since Laura is pretty much his girlfriend. So we come to the weird part of the episode where Bulldog is leaving. He's going to go live on another ship. But Bill walks up to him and hands him a folded up uniform and says, you're not getting off that easy, which is funny because he does, because we never see from him again. Though Bill is inferring that maybe he's going to eventually come back and be part of the Viper crowd, but he doesn't.
He's giving him the option of returning. I guess,
and he never does.
What it is.
So you don't know if then his Raptor flies off and then it gets hit by a meteor, so we don't see him anymore. So we get a great scene at the end. Saul and Bill, Saul comes to Bill's quarters, and he says, what are you doing here? I don't know what I'm doing here. He says, why don't you start by telling me what happened to Ellen? And he's like, you want to have a drink? And I'm like, how does this guy even walk around? He drinks so much. But Bill's like, yeah, let's have a drink. So obviously they've reached there as much as possible kiss and make up moment. So, and that's the end. So awesome block of episodes, and again, we're covering the show in its entirety because it's just one of those shows that doesn't really have any, it very rarely has one-off episodes that nothing relevant happens to the overall storyline.
Yeah, there's very, very rarely a bottle episode.
Yeah, but it's a great block, and it really, I think the overall message that's kind of underscored is that unlike with Star Trek, and I'm not obviously not knocking Star Trek because it's our main thing, things that happen do have consequences. Everybody doesn't just kind of dust themselves off and say, well, it's a brand new day, I guess I gotta be better about it. No, it's not a brand new day. You know, Saul still had to kill his wife. Starbuck was still locked up in a weird dollhouse when the Cylons were playing games with her mind. And you know, we lost 10,000 people out of the 50,000 people who are still alive in the human race. So life sucks. We don't really know if it's going to get any better, but we just gotta, they gotta keep on trucking, which is my personal favorite expression. So great block of episodes. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, it's a great bunch of episodes. So
absolutely. Cool. Good deal. All right. Well, we will be back at a future date to continue talking about this season. Thank you to our wonderful Patreons for tuning in. If you are listening to this episode on our free network feed in the distant future, you can visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You get to try us out for 7 days for free, get all this great bonus content, early shows, ad-free shows, etc. And then you can stay on board for as little as $2 a month. And as I love to say, quoting the Blues Brothers, that's a lot of entertainment for $2 a month. We will catch you next time. Thank you very much.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.